That's such a good question. What did I learn about myself? You know what's best for you.
Yeah.
I know what's best for me.
Yeah.
Life is an experience. There's no right and wrong, but you have to first and foremost look after yourself.
Hello, I'm Nicole and welcome to the Big Chat. And I am incredibly excited I'm always excited, but incredibly excited today because I'm going to be talking to a great friend of mine and a fabulous businesswoman, Anna Robertshaw. Anna Robertshaw.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
I'm so good. It's so lovely to be here.
It's so lovely to have you. I've obviously wanted to talk to, well, I talked to you many times, but I've wanted to talk to you on here for a long, long time. And it's been so interesting because some certain things have developed recently very quickly for you. People that don't know you or don't know about you, could you just tell people a little bit about who you are, where you're from, what you've been doing, and then we can really dive into what's going to happen next.
Okay. Oh, good question. So who am I? Well, I've been in Tunbridge Wells now for a long time. I am a yoga teacher. I've been teaching now for 10 plus years, on and off. And I, for the last year, have also been adding lots of sort of different things to the pot. So I'm a woman, I'm a mum to 3 teenage boys, so many hats and roles that we all play and love about our lives. That means that we're constantly sort of shifting and changing and moving and what else? So I have had a studio in Tunbridge Wells. I've taught in other studios in the local area. And I'm a Reiki healer. Yeah. A NADA protocol ear acupuncture therapist. Yeah. And this last year I've been studying art in psychotherapy, which has been incredible. And that finishes in July.
So that's quite a lot.
That's quite a lot. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I think that's it.
I mean, I think, and in lockdown, you were doing a lot of online classes as well, weren't you? You were offering online classes, yoga to people, and really helping people with that too.
Yes, I did some bits and pieces, but I also took some time out. I was really aware of people, starting up. It was so incredible how we adapted, all of us. And I really felt that I just needed some time out to rest and process. Yeah. Because the last 3 years for me personally, and also, for many of us, has been so intense. And actually, before we went into lockdown, I have to say, quite quietly to myself, I was just wishing to step off this kind of roundabout and this motion. And then this massive thing happened. And I was quite grateful, I have to say.
I think there's a few of us that were quite grateful. And I mean, we're very fortunate. We do live in rather a beautiful place, quite close to each other. So we were each other's bubble, really. We've been very lucky, haven't we? Yeah. But I mean, certainly when I met you many years ago. When you were about 17.
I think a bit younger than that. I think I was maybe 15.
Goodness
you took me clubbing up to Club UK.
I never took you clubbing up to Club UK. I don't know what she's talking about. But I was a little bit older than you, and I didn't then see you again until much later on when I was actually a yoga student at a class and you were also a fellow student. And then, like you said, you opened up a studio.
Yes.
So it was really interesting to then meet you, and I absolutely love the way that you teach, as you know. I just find the way that you teach just beautiful. It's it definitely works you definitely work me out when you do yoga with me, but it's also very soft and very gentle, and I think you really have an empathy for people in your teachings. So you were doing a lot of teaching, weren't you? And you were teaching a lot in studios, but then, like you say, when lockdown came, you wanted some time out. Was that just because it was becoming a bit of a relentless, as we've all found?
I think I've had quite a stop-start career. It hasn't been linear, but the more I'm learning, and this year turning 42, I'm absolutely understanding that life isn't linear. we seem to think that we have these set ways of being, and I'm really embracing that now, you know, the sort of the flow. And actually, I have to say, I'm really good at knowing what I need.
Yes, you are.
And for the first time ever, I'm able to say that, despite potentially, you know, what some people may think. And so therefore, this kind of stop-start, you know, having opened a studio in Tunbridge Wells and being there for 4 years, and then going through the process of my dad being very ill, I know you can relate to this, and making the decision to take time out for him in the few months that we had with him, and then him dying, and the end of my marriage at that point too. And then I set up a new business, and I rented a space in a spa. And it was all go, 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 because again, to me, it was like, I have to do this. You know, I'm a single mum of 3 boys, and I get lots of support from their dad in terms of, you know, him helping to look after them. But, you know, I'm supporting myself.
Yeah.
And I was very much on that trajectory. And I think I hit burnout. And you know what? I set that business up, and I've told you this before, I know. I was running, I think, at one point 10 classes a week. And when I set Retreat up, I actually said to myself, I'm only going to be able to do this for 6 months. And sure enough, actually tied in with then the landlord selling the business anyway, I hit burnout.
Yeah.
And I just thought that's so fascinating, because this deep knowing and intuition that actually we all have. We all have this capacity. And that sort of sight and that vision, and knowing that and almost setting it up on that premise, I find quite incredible.
It's so incredible. And you know, and I mean, I know at that time when you had that, when you had Retreat, I mean, it was a real gift for me as well, because my dad had passed away, and I think I said to you a couple of days ago, every time I come into your class at the end of it, I'd just cry. But it was such a release.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing release. And I think that you do really nurture people in what you do. I mean, what made you want to be interested in yoga in the first place? Because you were always into your fitness, weren't you? For those that don't know, you've always been very driven with your fitness and your health.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have. And I'd had gym memberships, and I'd run, and I was in advertising in London for a couple of years before I had Alfie. And I remember so many people at that point saying to me, you should try yoga, you'd love it. And I was like, yeah, you know, maybe. And sure enough, it was 2 very dear friends of mine that sort of introduced me to yoga. And I absolutely adored it. It was the first thing that I tried that really got me not only into the physical space of my body, but also, actually at that point, I'd had my 3rd boy, George, and I'd lost my identity. I'd had 3 boys. Well, I had 3 boys under the age of 3.5. My body had been through this massive shift and change. And of course, I didn't quite appreciate it then, but actually I appreciate it more now. And I'd get up in the morning, I didn't know what to wear. I was unhappy, despite having these 3 beautiful boys in my life.
Yeah.
It was just anxiety. I was struggling with panic attacks. It was a really tough time, and I did go to the doctors, and they did prescribe me antidepressants, and I took one. And look, you know, Western medicine is fantastic in many ways, but it wasn't for me. And I remember sitting in the back garden with my kids, and it was like looking at life through a window, through a screen. And I just thought, for me, it wasn't, I couldn't do it. It was a choice. And that choice brought me to a crossroads. So going back to your question about what got me into yoga, it was the path of realization. And it was a path of reconnection back to myself, to my authentic self. And it's so powerful. I can't believe it, but it's been such a process, like really 10 plus years.
Yeah.
And we all want quick fixes, don't we?
Isn't that the thing? As we get older, it is that sort of patience that things don't happen over, we do all want that quick fix.
Of course.
But actually, as you get older, you recognise that things that really sustainable change does take time.
Yeah.
And you have to have an amount of patience around things, and you have to trust, like you say, your intuition, and trust the process and trust what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because like you say, 10 years, it's a long time, and yet it doesn't feel like that long.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
When you're 20, 10 years probably feels like a very long time. But as you get older, and I read something beautiful the other day that said, you spend half your life figuring out how to live your life, and then the second half of your life living it. Yeah. And I find that quite interesting, because I feel like that's something that's happening. So when you... obviously, yoga has always been a part of you've seen a lot of changes in that industry as well, haven't you? Because
massive changes.
I was a yoga teacher when I first reconnected with you. And even then, there was much fewer of us in the town. Whereas now it's burst out. There's lots of studios. There's lots of different people doing different types of yoga.
Yes.
And it's everywhere now. How have you found that industry change? What have you noticed? Where's it gravitated you towards?
I think exactly that. And I think, much like you, I'm always looking at things, and I'm always trying to do something different. And I think, the whole world could become a yoga teacher, and we would all teach in our authentic way.
Yes.
So, everybody's unique, everybody has their own message, and I really believe that. So I think it's fantastic that there is an increase in teachers. But I think for me, it's very much about that unique sense. The shift in the yoga industry has got very physical. More high street, what I would call high street yoga, is very physical. And that dynamic for me was really short-lived, because actually I had a very dynamic practice. And for me personally, I can't speak for anybody else, but I started to suffer a lot of physical pain. Mm-hmm. I was going for constant massage, my neck, my shoulders. And I was like, why am I doing this? I was teaching however many classes a week. And I sort of lost my way with it. I lost the connection to the reason why I was doing it. So for me, my yoga has very much been about the foundation of an energetic practice, which essentially for me is what yoga is all about. It's shifting energy within the body and relabeling these sort of sensations that we feel. Nerves, anxiety, excitement, anticipation, and trying to remove those labels and really kind of get a sense of where you're at in the body, and maybe using asana or movement, kind of just shaking it off, grounding, breathing in and leaning into things that make us feel uncomfortable.
Yes.
And for me, what's changed in yoga, not in all schools, of course, I spent 4 weeks in Mexico a couple of years ago, a wonderful school in Mazunte, the Hiradaya school, very traditional teachings. And it was so wonderful to spend time connecting with heart, kindness, and unconditional love. Yeah. First and foremost for ourselves. It's tossed around on social media, isn't it? Self-care, self-love. And, as a concept, one might think, have a bath in some Epsom salts. But these are practices, they're rituals, they're tributes that we pay to ourselves. Definitely. Every single day, every single moment. We're so precious.
Definitely.
Life is so precious.
And absolutely. And I think when we did go into lockdown, and as you've mentioned, you are very good at knowing what's good for you. I would say, as your friend and someone that's worked with you, and it being a student of yours, so many different capacities, you do know what's good for you. A lot of people, myself included, don't always know what's good for them. And I think in lockdown, everyone had to really address that. Yeah. Everyone had to stop. Yeah. Everyone was in the same sort of boat, different versions of, but everyone really had to stop doing what they were doing. And it hit a lot of us in the face, like, whoa, I've been running 1,000,000 miles an hour and I've been doing this and doing that. Where am I going? Where am I heading to? Why am I doing this? that experience of being in lockdown was just phenomenal. And I know with you and I, we did take some time out, and it was really precious. And actually, you would the online teaching that you were doing, a lot of that movement that you were talking about, you were just getting people to move. What did you learn about yourself in lockdown as well? You sort of said you got better at slowing down, but what else have you learned about yourself through that process?
That's such a good question. What did I learn about myself? Probably, like you say, much like a lot of us, that I have many distractions that I was using. The busyness, jumping in my car every 5 minutes, nipping into town, grabbing this,
shopping,
grabbing that, shopping, love a bit of shopping, love a bit of retail therapy. And, all those distractions were taken away. We couldn't get in the car. We weren't allowed. We couldn't go drive down to the beach. So it was really about stripping that back, shedding layers, and trying to find things, within our vicinity that we could sort of empower ourselves again. Community. So we're really lucky up here. Okay, obviously we honoured the social distancing rules, but, we don't necessarily have the sort of normal family unit up here. So we sort of created that, and that was really important. And within that space, then, there were some really uncomfortable things that came up for me. First and foremost, actually, was grieving. A lot of grief that I was holding on to because I hadn't allowed myself the space, nor really, through nobody's fault, had the space held for me to properly grieve my dad. Yeah. And that was really eye-opening for me. Yeah. I was like, man, we carry around so much baggage constantly. And we're like, we're so good, we're so stoic, and we're so adaptable. But, to be able to take the time and the space to really sort of strip back. Absolutely. It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, certainly my personal experience going into lockdown, and again, I want to talk to you about the NADA stuff, because I had an experience at the beginning of lockdown, as you know, where I was just like, right, I'm going to stop drinking. I was taking painkillers because I was in a lot of pain in my shoulders. And I was like, I'm going to stop taking painkillers. I'm going to stop drinking. I just stopped everything. And actually what that did was brought so much pain up, like physical pain, grieving, all those things. You were amazing. This woman pinned my ears, socially distancing, pinned my ears for me for what felt like, I don't know, about 6 times a day. We're just putting pins in my ears. And that really helped me. How did you get into that? Because you've done and melt you didn't mention as well.
Oh, I didn't mention my melt.
Because there's lots of different things that you've done around the body and movement and helping. So talk a bit about those, because they've really helped me.
So, it was such a gift to be a part of that process. And the thing is, you're such a force. You always you decide something, and then you're like,
that's it.
I'm going to do this.
I'm doing it. No alcohol, no tablets, pin me. That's it, exactly.
It was okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, I was a good guinea pig for you, definitely.
No, it was wonderful. It's so nice to be a part of that. So the NADA is an interesting one. A very dear, wonderful friend of mine, Sarah Clifford, was a lifeline with the NADA for me during Dad's illness. And I would go to her regularly, much like actually you did during lockdown with me. And I just found, as a therapy, it immediately grounded me.
Really does.
But at the same time, took me into this almost quite... it was like a meditation. So it's very centering, and I would just sit for half an hour, 45 minutes is normally what we put the pins in for. And it recentered, basically.
It does, it recenters, and it kind of resets you. It's really, it is grounding. I think that's the only word for it.
Yeah, and but it's hitting, so there's 5 points in the ear. So it's Shen Men, which is the sort of recentering point. So in Chinese medicine, Shen Men is sort of what they call Heaven's Gate. And then we go into the sympathetic nervous system, which is obviously, as you know, the doing mode. Yeah. And that eases the sympathetic, which again is the sort of recentering, the rest. And then we go into the kidney point, the liver point and the lung point. So on one side we do upper lung, and then on the other side we do the lower lung.
Amazing.
And all these organs are targeting specific emotions as well. So for me, my lung point would always pop out, because up to that point I was holding on to so much grief, and lungs are known as the place that we hold on to grief.
I think my kidney kept popping. Like, there's one that just kept popping out all the. But you're right, it is. It was just that was all one that would feel slightly more sensitive.
Yes.
And you can do this with children as well, don't you?
Absolutely.
So you've done this with your boys, haven't you, as well? And it's really helped, hasn't it?
So I wouldn't normally pin. I do with my boys. Joseph is no way. Alfie and George are a little bit more easier for me to work with, but so I pin them because they're my kids. But for littlies or kids that are a bit nervous of the needles, I have ear seeds. Yeah. So they're just tiny little plasters, and they activate the points as effectively as the pins.
And the melt as well, because again, I mean, you are literally my angel. I couldn't walk in lockdown. I thought it would be a great idea just to, not only stop drinking, stop doing everything, also just to wear flip-flops and bare feet everywhere. Because I thought, well, this is great. I don't have to wear heels. I don't have to go to work. I'll just have bare feet the whole time. And having been in quite a serious accident in the soapbox and never addressed it, which was crazy now that I didn't do that, but whatever, I think that my body then started to notice. And so I literally had plantar fasciitis that I'm not very good at saying. I literally couldn't walk. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was like, it was awful. Really makes you sympathetic to people that can't walk. And you gave me the melt balls and showed me. And so you did that a while ago, didn't you, with the melt? Because I don't know many people that do that.
Yeah, so the melt training I did with Sue Hitzman, she's a incredible woman and was incredible to learn with. There's nothing she doesn't know about the body. And I'd always had some loopholes in my sort of training that I'd done, sort of anatomy training over the years in yoga. And the melt training for me really ticked many boxes in terms of the connective tissue and how we're seeing it as this whole other body, this whole other system. And that actually, even almost like your sixth sense, and that we have to look after our connective tissue. So as you experience quite painfully during lockdown, that inflammation, which many of us can suffer from, either intermittently or, more acutely. And then, unfortunately, as we age, the connective tissue in your body dehydrates. And it's not just a case of drinking loads of water, because I know if I just drink loads of water, guess what? I just pee more. Yeah. But the idea, very simply put, behind melt is that you're massaging and working into the connective tissue. Now, the training that I did, the hand and foot method, is, as you know, the balls, the soft and the hard balls, specific points, because obviously, like the ear acupuncture, acupressure, specific points in the hand and feet relate back to different organs and systems within the body. So you're doing this hand and foot treatment, takes you sort of 5 minutes a day, the more that you get into it, and you're looking after one of the most important systems of the body.
Absolutely.
And so, even if you're just into it for the anti-aging element, there's a great she calls it the facelift. It's really amazing.
Because you
massage your face with these balls. I mean, not only it feels great, but also like completely can just lift your face.
Because I do recall actually on social media was it Sarah Clifford that did the pins in your face?
The face acupuncture. Oh my God. That woman, she's so incredible. I love her so much. The face acupuncture.
I mean, look, you're 42 and you've had 3 boys and you look fabulous. So I think everyone's now going to be running out speaking to Sarah Clifford about getting facial pins, facelifts and melt balls, because you look fabulous, darling. But I mean, that is, you've always been very, really open to trying different things.
Always.
And everything that you teach, and I can relate to this, as you know, you in all things that you do, you like to experience them yourself first, and then you love to share what you've learned with other people, don't you?
Yes, I do.
That seems to be the way that you do things.
Yeah, I do.
So tell me about the learning that you've been doing. So during lockdown, I'll have a rest, and then I'll decide that I'm going to go and do a course.
Well, yeah.
I mean, the course that you did with the children's art and the psychotherapy, that's been a big thing as well, hasn't it?
The art psychotherapy, yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. I was really interested for myself to go back to childhood. So the point at which we enter this world, and we're brought into our sort of societal and familial patterns.
Yeah.
Wonderful parents, love them, and society, and then the patterns and the messages that are basically kind of put upon us.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating because, to be honest, I've often found that children speak a lot more sense than a lot of adults I know.
Definitely.
And I think it's such a pure state. Children are so pure, and I think it's such a wonderful time. And I know we've talked a lot, when we were talking about the I Am Life project with Matt, and the three of us were talking a lot about that state of being that children are in, when they're so engrossed and they're down and they're playing and they have their hands in the dirt, and they're sort of, and you're as a parent, it's so frustrating. You're calling them and then you lose your rag and you're like and they're like, ooh, what? And then, that's kind of potentially a state that we sort of push out of them too early.
Very true.
I think, especially when they start school. So it's pushed out of them, and then, school, higher education, jobs, career. And then at some point in our lives, we go, I need to get back to that state again.
Yeah.
I need to play again.
Yeah.
I need to be totally immersed in something rather than, as we were saying earlier, that head state. You're just like,
And because we set up the I'm Life project. We're still going to be doing some things with that together.
Yes.
But we all kind of set it up, and we had great plans to do things, and then we just couldn't because of all the schools were on board. They wanted us to do things, but then that was it. We couldn't do it because of the summer.
Yeah.
All the kids were back with us. But I think, all three of us, yourself, myself and Matt, all sort of went off, and I've started to explore coaching. You've started to explore your things. Matt's doing more of his mentoring and things. But it's interesting. And what I found interesting talking to you about the course that you were doing was how much it brought up for you, because it's like all these things, isn't it? Because you had to have therapy as well doing the course to be a therapist. You have to, with all things, don't you? I mean, I remember being trained to be a yoga teacher. I felt like that was 2 years of therapy, to be honest, because you learn so much about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never had psychotherapy. So, I've always considered myself, fairly sort of, I've been through a process, let's put it that way. I've been through a process. I've had many experiences. I feel like I've had quite a few lives in my nearly 42 years. But the psychotherapy, so just to clarify, after this year's course, I won't be a psychotherapist. I've literally just been drawing the elements from this fantastic course with the Institute for Art in Psychotherapy, which is based up in Islington in London. Fantastic institute with a wonderful faculty. But it's a foundation course. So obviously when you go into training to be a counsellor or psychotherapy, you have to have your own therapy, because when you're using these mediums, and they're very powerful mediums, whether it be movement or music or drama or sand play, clay, the things that can come up, and they're like triggers. So of course you have to have your own therapy alongside that to bring up these things that come up. And again, alongside what we were talking about earlier with the grieving, which has been a big process for me. Dad died. It will be 4 years ago this July. I can still feel it comes up in my throat when I talk about him. But the fact, we carry all this stuff potentially from childhood, and it shapes who we are.
Yeah.
And potentially really stops us being who we need to be.
Absolutely. And I think, like you say, you're not necessarily continuing with that course, but that's taught you so much, hasn't it?
Yeah.
And really moulded what you've wanted to do. And it's been very interesting to sort of observe you sort of developing what you wanted to do. So obviously, you know, being fortunate enough to be a good friend of yours, I've had insights into who you are and what you want to do. But what's really, because we're going to talk about what you're going to be doing, which is very exciting, which is why I literally said, Anna, you're coming on the big chat next week. This is the time because of what's happening. So over the last few months, you have been sort of developing your craft and all of these things that you've got, and your Reiki as well, you know, not to mention the Reiki training that you've got, which lots of people have been saying it's phenomenal that you have such a gift at healing as well. So it's brilliant. So what's been happening? Where's all this? What's been going on? You've been like in a pot.
I have like a cauldron stirring. I remember we were talking about this.
A unicorn cauldron.
I was
not a green horrible one, a beautiful unicorn one. But yes, you have been.
I was percolating and I knew it was coming. And do you know what? Going back to what we were just saying, I think over the years I've just been aware of this. I've kind of always had this sense of where I want to be. But like a lot of us, unfortunately, for many years, I've had this crushing self-doubt and mistrust in the power of my own voice. And so, you know, having done this course and having had my own therapy and sort of having this wonderful community around me, you know, wonderful friends and close people that's so inspiring and you know, percolating and sitting and thinking, and I just thought, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to relaunch. So I'm relaunching under the name of Anna Robertshaw, because it's
a great name.
My name.
That's your name.
Cut off my legs and call me Shorty.
but that's it, isn't it? It is your name. That is who you are, and it's because all these things that you do, there are many things. You are not one. All of us are many things, but this is great because you're bringing together everything that you're doing, everything that you've learned, and you're relaunching. So tell us a bit about the relaunch. What can we expect from Anna Robertshaw?
So the relaunch, I'm so excited. It's all come to fruition very quickly. It's happening on the 1st of May. So on the 1st of May, I'll be launching my all new website, my all new social media platform on Instagram. There'll be free video footage on YouTube, my YouTube channel, which will be yoga, meditation, movement.
Brilliant.
And then the other big announcement, which I'm so excited about, is I will be running a UK retreat, a 5-star luxury retreat at the end of August. At a wonderful location that's very nearby.
It's very nearby.
How
you've manifested
to get on
that?
Airplanes or
honestly, it's beautiful.
And I've co-created with my very dear friend and housemate Kerry this underpinning, and the message of Anna Robertshaw is the idea of the North Star. So we've utilised. Actually, I'm looking at your walls and seeing these stars. So the North Star being, you know, the anchor point in the sky, and I love the idea that it's the still point. And it's the still point. It gives hope and inspiration. And it stays still while the night sky shifts around it. So metaphorically speaking, North Star under Anna Robertshaw will be all about finding people's personal statements.
That's beautiful.
Their missions, their purpose. And actually giving people tools and equipping them so that they can find their own stillness, and especially based on what we've talked about today, you know, the shifting world, these vast changes and the huge amount of anxiety that I've experienced alongside so many people around us. It's time now. It's time that we really empower ourselves, because you know, there's so much happening, there's so many changes, and I think to find that sort of fixed point, that destination that we're all hoping to get to potentially.
Absolutely.
And using all of these wonderful
and that's beautiful.
mediums.
I think that's beautiful. North, I think that's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's really aligned with you. That's wonderful. And I think that, like you say, finding that stillness, and it's nice that you've shared today that you have felt anxious and you have felt self-doubt, because I think that's something you and I have talked many times about this, that people just assume that we don't.
Right, we talk about this a lot, right?
Like, I doubt myself a lot. I mean, maybe people think, we can see that, but
never.
A lot of people think I'm really confident, really super, but
Absolutely.
We all have anxiety, and we all have that voice that, don't we?
Yeah, we do, because like we're always talking about, you see me, I see you.
Yeah.
I live with myself 24/7. I go to bed with myself every single night.
Yeah.
No one knows me like I know me, and I know me warts and all. And there's something that's very beautiful about that, you know, being in relationship with yourself. But there's also something really vulnerable about that too, because like you say, we, you know, all the light and all the dark, all the areas of sort of self-doubt or anxiety. Anybody that says that they don't necessarily struggle with those things or haven't in the past, I don't know, I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think it's because it is the light and the dark, and there is no problem with that. If people were a bit more open about it, then, because there is so many things that you can do that can move you away from it.
Of course.
That's the beautiful thing. And it's like, even like you mentioned earlier with the self-care and the Epsom salt baths. I mean, I feel like I want one now, actually. But it's just those lovely little things, those little rituals, or having, you know, meditation, movement, having my ears pinned. You know, I said to you the other day, I was like, I need some more pinning, but all these little things. And when you learn these toolkit that you can have, it's a wonderful experience, because then you learn how to center yourself. And that's the greatest gift, I think, is when you learn how, like you say, you live with yourself. You don't need external validation. No. You don't need external experience. You don't need alcohol or substance or whatever.
Absolutely.
You can have those things if you want them, but you can sort of you say this a lot, self-regulate, and that's important.
Breathing, tuning in, knowing how you're feeling when you get up in the morning, spending time during the day and thinking, okay, how am I feeling right now? What's going on? I'm just going to take a few breaths, I'm going to breathe through this. But it was interesting, you know, what you were just saying about the therapies, and that's a key point. And this is something that I really want to hone, is that therapy and healing, look, I'm a wonderful person, obviously I'm very special, but look, there's nothing special about me. We are all uniquely incredible and special. So the point, again, of my next endeavour is to make sure that people start to own their own sense of healing power and presence, because then you're not going to other people all the time, that sort of sense of codependency. Okay, well, I'm going to, you know, pay out to go and see somebody, a chiropractor, everything, you know, great. We all need that from time to time. But to keep churning out the money again, because it's coming back to the point of, you know what's best for you. I know what's best for me. And then within that space, we're all able to kind of stay open, you know, live life, hopefully through heart space. Because again, I think, and going back to what we were just saying about some people perhaps that don't experience anxiety or fear, or say they don't, I would probably suggest is some kind of suppression. You know, they've pushed it down. And what happens is when we suppress, we can't be boundaried. You know, boundaries, we talk about this a lot, right? Boundaries are such an intrinsic part of growing up.
Absolutely.
And I'm nailing this message and honing this, or trying to, with my boys. It's like, you're going to make mistakes. Life is an experience. There's no right and wrong, but you have to first and foremost look after yourself.
Absolutely.
And I remember in the past people saying to me, you only think about yourself, as a selfish thing. And I'm like, that is not selfish, because if I can't look after myself, no one else can. But not in a sort of like alpha way, but just...
And also, as we've talked about many times, you have 3 boys, I have 2 children. We bring them up. Yes, we have supportive fathers. They have supportive fathers that support us, but ultimately, we do that on our own.
Yeah.
And now as women as well, we're working, we're mothers. There is so many more things.
Yeah.
And that's okay, but learning how to look after yourself is so important, and it shouldn't be made to feel selfish. And I feel that push-pull a lot, that I've got to be this businesswoman, and I've got to be this, and I've got to be that, but I've also got to be the best mum, and I've also got to be the best ex-wife, and I've also got to be the best friend, and I've also got to... And honestly, no one is that superhuman.
No.
And actually, sometimes taking some time out, and you've been very... generous in helping me explore that, on a friendship level. And I think that'll be a great gift you give to people that work with you and that come on retreats with you.
Thank you.
Because you're a good guide on that, Anna. You really are. You do guide people into doing that and making them realise that's not selfish, it's important.
Thank you.
Because we can't give from an empty cup. It's just as simple as that.
No, absolutely we can't. And that's when I think we experience the acute anxiety, and then that has a massive effect. Stress and anxiety have a huge effect on our bodies, definitely, and that's when you're more susceptible to disease,
definitely.
So that this is like, I've always said this is like the pension scheme for our bodies, right? We're taught that we should invest money is such a big thing. We pay into pension schemes. We have to be very sensible. Well, how about we also pay into our pension scheme for ourselves?
Absolutely. And it's so true.
This is an investment.
And I feel like actually throughout the last 12 months, people are starting to address that more.
I think they are.
So the time is right.
The time is now, yeah.
So we're definitely going to talk to you more. This is not the only conversation we're going to be having with you, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm keen for you to do more of these, Anna Robertshaw, yourself, because I think you've got so much wonderful things to say. So I hope we can look forward to hearing more about you. Where can people it's great. Anna Robertshaw is quite a good name. But do they look for Anna Robertshaw North Star? Where do they find you? 1st of May, which is this coming out on Friday. It'll be Monday. Where do they go to find out what you're doing?
So on Instagram, it will be Anna Robertshaw.
Yeah.
My Facebook is Anna Robertshaw.
Yeah.
My website is annarobertshaw.com.
Amazing.
So Anna Robertshaw.
Fantastic. And I would just personally invite everyone to take a look at what you do, because it is phenomenal. And also I think it's such a great advocate of being able to create a business and an abundance from doing something that you really love and that's really good for people and yourself.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. And
wonderful.
I'm just so excited. And your retreat again, I'm going.
Yes,
I've got a spot.
There. You have
I'm
a spot.
there. But it's August, and can everyone find out about that?
Bank holiday weekend in August.
Okay.
I will be posting up on my social media channels all about that. There'll be the pictures, where it's at.
Because that will be limited spaces, I imagine.
It will be limited spaces, yeah.
It's very beautiful.
Yes.
That's all I can say. Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful.
And best of luck, Anna Robertshaw, with Anna Robertshaw.
Thank you.
Thank you.